Our dough is ready. I'm going to oil my hands, and I wanted to show you that what I'm using is a mixture of olive oil and liquid lecithin. You can get a smaller jar through the dry goods list available at yourhealthsource.org. You can ask for that list, and you can also find this at your Whole Foods stores, your health food stores. So it's just a very small amount, like half a teaspoon, to some olive oil, and you just shake it up, and that gives you a non-stick spray that doesn't have the propellants in it, and it's not a aerosol jar, okay? So I'm just going to oil my hands, and I like to oil my surface a little bit. I'm going to pull this dough right out of this bowl and show you kind of what I do with it. Fluffier soft dough makes fluffier soft bread. If your dough feels a little dry, you can add like a tablespoon of water at a time, and you just get really good at finding out the texture that you need for your dough. Okay, so I'm just going to pull it out and put it right here. And as you do this, your bowls should come out pretty clean. This is pretty good. It could be even better where it's just totally smooth on the inside and where the dough just sort of falls out. And the newer Bosch's, like this one, the piece here will just come right out, and you can just wash the middle piece. And you can put it in your dishwasher. So I'm just going to put that back together and set it aside and work with this lump of dough. So my hands are going to be oily. I don't have any flour sitting around to add to this. So what you want to do is you don't want to add flour. That's the traditional way of doing bread. You keep a little flour and you keep adding it in. But what we have here is a beautiful lump of dough. We don't want to add any more flour because we don't want flour that doesn't have the gluten developed. This gluten has been developed, okay? So it's going to look pretty like this, and if you press it with your fingers and it begins to bounce back, you know you've got your gluten developed. I'm going to use these simple, inexpensive scissors, and I'm just going to cut my dough. Now if you want to get really serious with your bread, get a kitchen scale, and you can weigh out your dough section so that your bread is the same every time. This could be 6 loaves of bread right there, okay? 6 batches of cinnamon rolls, 6 flatbreads, okay? There's so many things you can do with it. I wanted to take a minute to take these apart, and I'll show you. I use glass, I use stone, and I also use stainless steel. And glass is inexpensive, but it breaks, so I like to use glass. Stone is wonderful, and it also breaks. So my favorite would be the stainless steel pans. So today I'm just going to take my little dough rounds and put them in a pan. You can certainly just cook bread like that. You can slash the top, put patterns on it, let it rise until it doubles, and then put it in your oven to cook it. If you go to my website, you're going to see a lot of different things you can do with this bread. You can make monkey bread. If you've heard of that, that's where you're going to take little dough balls and dip it in butter and cinnamon and natural sugar. Okay, so I'm just going to set these aside. These can be soft pretzels. These can be hamburger or vegetarian burger buns. So you can do that. And it's certainly sandwich bread. Okay, so if I take one of my doughs, let's just keep setting them aside. If I take one of them and I just want to make some hamburger buns, I'll take that 1/6 of my dough and I'll cut it in half, and then I'll cut that into a half. And each one of these is going to be a hamburger bun. And so all I have to do is just shape it, flatten it, and then place it on an oiled baking pan. Okay, so that's going to be like that. If I really want to do this, bake up a bunch of dough ahead of time, I will just lay these out on my sheet with a little bit of oil spritzed on there first, lay them out, let them freeze. Soft frozen is what I like to say, not hard. Hard is harder to get it off the pan. But if it's soft frozen, then you can take all these little doughs and put them in a bag, seal it off, and then anytime you want your hamburger buns and you want to bake them fresh, you can just pull them right out one at a time. If you want to, you can take the same dough and roll it out into a small personal pizza. Okay, so that's another thing you can do with this kept in your freezer. You can shape these any way you want to, and I would just encourage you to look online for all the different things you can do. You can stuff the dough. You can stuff it with cinnamon and raisins or dates and nuts. And you can do the same thing if you want to do an Italian flavor. People make calzones and things like that with cheese, marinara sauce, sometimes meat in their dough. Now another way, if I want to take the same 6, I can cut it in half. And I can cut it again into half. So we've got the 4 hamburger buns, but then I can cut it again, and these are going to be dinner rolls. So there, if it looks a little sticky, I'll just get my hands oiled again. A lot of times I will take a pie pan, and I'll take one ball and put it in the middle, and then I'll take some more, and I just form them, and I put them around, and I kind of push them up like that until I get a little circle around each one, around the middle one. And when you put this in a pie pan or a quiche dish or something like that, you end up with something that looks a lot like a flower. You can oil or butter the top of your bread if you want a more golden crust, and then you just get it around like that, and there you go. Okay, and it looks really pretty on your table when you bring it out of the oven. So there would be 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 dinner rolls to serve at your table. And if I were in a hurry and I didn't want to serve it tonight and just freeze it, I could put all this in the freezer in my pie pan with plastic wrap on it, freeze it, and then when I'm ready, bring it out, let it thaw, let it rise, double in size, and cook it and have it fresh for dinner if I want that fresh smell. I'll just show you 2 more quick things and then we'll stop. If you take your 1/6 of your dough and you cut it into 4s like your hamburger buns, and you take a oven-safe bowl, you're going to wrap this on the bowl. The bowl's going to be oiled, and you're going to wrap this on that bowl so it's like this. And you put it in your oven and cook it, and it'll be flat here because it'll have the flatness of the bowl. And when it comes out, it's going to be a bread bowl, and that's beautiful for soup. It's just kind of a fun thing if you're wanting to do something different. And then the last thing to show you is if you take 1/6 of this dough and you roll it out, either on a big pan like this or a smaller one, you just roll it out, okay? You can use your hands. I've got a little rolling pin here. Okay, there we go. A little crazy, but I've got it. And you just roll it out. And this is going to end up being an Italian flatbread. It'll be a pizza crust. It could be our cinnamon rolls. And if it's cinnamon rolls, all I'm going to do is cinnamon up this bread. I'm going to make it very thin, lots of cinnamon, and of course you can put it, sometimes I put a fruit spread on here to make it more moist, but for sure cinnamon. Most of the time I don't even put sugar in there, just cinnamon. And then I'm going to roll it up, and I'll end up with a big roll. Then I cut it, and I cut each piece into my cinnamon rolls, and I put them on my pan, and I'm all set. So I can freeze them, or I can go ahead and cook them when they have doubled in size and risen, and then I'll just pop them in my oven, and they're ready.